Hi, Joel. Thanks for doing this with us. I appreciate it a lot. Can you just start off by giving us, some of us are familiar with you, some of us aren't. Can you just tell us kind of the general, who are you, where are you, what are you doing, that kind of thing?
Great. Name is Joel Arnold, and we're in the Philippines in Manila. So the main thing I end up doing with my life, day in, day out, I'm doing teaching. I'm in a college, and so that's really like the bulk of my time, life investment. But then lots of other stuff. We're very blessed to be involved in a church that we love, and so I enjoy being part of that and serving there, doing a good bit of preaching there. This will give you a little idea of maybe what my setting looks like around me, so I'll toss a picture up here if it'll work. Manila, huge city, and then church ministry, college ministry, and trying to reach out to the people around us in our neighborhood.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay, so also update us, if you would, on what the COVID situation is like in Manila. What's the quarantine situation like? Kind of what's the world picture for you right now?
So I've lost count of the number of weeks, but I think basically a month ago, 4 to 5 weeks ago, it was a Monday night, and the president got on, I think, at 10 p.m., and he made an announcement. Tomorrow morning, nobody goes to school. All the classes are shut down. So that was late night on a Sunday or a Monday night. Next morning, we had classes starting at 8:30. So that started us off, and my wife and I did an all-nighter. We actually ordered a pizza at like 12:30 at night. I think that's the first time I've ever done that. And we sat there and set everything up on Zoom and got all the classes moved over. It worked. Anyway, stayed up, got all that done. Next morning, students came in at 8:30, or the faculty came in, and we're like, yeah, everything's canceled. Everything's online. So that started us off like March, I think that was March 10th. Yeah. And then the president came back on that Thursday, March 12th, and he said not just classes, but then work and everything is canceled. So since March 12th, and I'm looking at the calendar for the first time in a while, there we go, a month ago, everything's been shut down. And like I said, I live in a huge city. I mean, if you go out on my street, right in front of my house, it's just solid cars all the time, normally. If you go out there now, there is nothing. I walked out there today, and there were 3 stray dogs that were running around, and then an empty street. That's it. I mean, there's just nothing out there. So the city is shut down, totally changed. We can go out, and we can go one of us at a time. You can't go together. But one of us can go out. You have to have like a pass, and everybody got this pass with their name and picture on it and stuff like that. And if you go out, you can buy food. That's all you're really supposed to do. So whether everybody does that or not, that's technically what you're supposed to do. So
How is that affecting your economy there? And specifically, I'm thinking of work for the people in your church and for your students. Is it hitting them pretty hard?
Totally. So yeah, I mean, in general, anyway, everybody's different. You've got different families that are more like professionals, and so but within like the spread of most people, most of the people that live on my street or the people that I see a lot are going to be living like week to week. Some of them live day to day. Not infrequently, I'll be in a place and somebody will be checking out in front of me. They work that day. They'll come in and they'll spend their paycheck for that day. And that's just kind of and then, okay, well, we'll see what I can buy tomorrow. Okay, so that's the way that things normally run. Well, then if that's the way you're running and then you shut down the economy for a month, or we have another 3 weeks left, so we're going to be at more than a month and a half. You've got people that are in trouble. We've got people that are legitimately in trouble. So now, it's not like the society has fallen apart. Things are, there's peace. Within our church setting, then we've done some things where we've really, our pastor and the leadership and working together, part of the group, we've done some things where we're checking with each family. Are you guys okay? Do you have what you need? And so far, everyone is okay. Actually, the church is divided up into care groups. And so, there's a group each guy is looking out for and calling, making sure everything's going okay. So everybody in the groups are okay so far. We have some funds that are there for them as things grind down a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, it's a concern. It's a concern for the country and our students. And there are people that are legitimately in trouble. So.
But, wow. Okay. So how has it touched you personally? You spiritually, just your personal life. Obviously, your personal life, you've kind of already talked about that a bit. But for you, for Joel, how has it affected you?
Yeah. I mean, I was just writing up some of these thoughts today, processing some of these things for myself, and legitimately, I feel really encouraged in the sense that by God's grace, this has not been a destabilizing thing, and I think the same for most of the people in our church. Maybe for some, it would be a destabilizing thing, but it's. I guess it is truly rejoicing to just recognize God is our rock and nothing has changed. In the most important stuff that exists in the world, God is still God. So the world can fall apart, the economy can fall apart, but God is still God, and nothing really has changed in that. As far as our family goes, I mean, there's practical stuff. So my kids are like legally not allowed to go outside at all, outside of our gate. So I mean that adds up. We're at weeks now, and they're feeling that. And I'm conscious too, like I need to get outside and see sunlight. I need to run. I need to be outside. So things like that. Sarah and I are trying to be conscious of it. But no, I mean, it's not like this has been discouraging or frustrating. I enjoy things like this. I enjoy the opportunity to connect with some of our churches. So yeah, we're doing well by God's grace.
Yeah, good. I think it's really crucial what you said, that none of the important stuff has changed. I'm the only one who can see this pretty much ever, but on my wall behind my computer, I have like all the different schedules and things for the church, and just the various things that go on day to day, week to week, month to month. And a couple weeks ago, I was looked up at my wall, and I realized that I could probably tear down almost all of it except for our mission statement, and our core values, core virtues. That stuff, it's just as controlling and guiding and relevant as ever. That didn't change. Which is a big comfort. We still have that foundation. So
totally.
I appreciate that. That's where God has been moving us as well, I think. What are your thoughts on, or your experience with evangelism or outreach in broad terms during the quarantine? Because that was, I'll be honest, when this started, and I think I even said something to our church about it, I thought, I have no idea how we're going to continue that. We're still responsible to, but I didn't really know how that was going to work. And God still is doing what He's doing. But from your perspective, in your life, in your world, what's that like for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because so there's a tension here. The people on my street are more open to me than they've ever been before. They're scared. And I, like I said, I mean, just understanding their situation, it's not just scared of the virus, they are, but it's the economic implications of it. It's just all that. It's kind of like down to the level, what will we do if we run out of money and we run out of food? I mean, that's kind of the level that a lot of them are living on. So they're scared, and it's understandable. So they're open, and they're talking to me. I just had a really gut-wrenching conversation. What was that? Yesterday, the day before? But I mean, literally, like right in front of my house, you walk right out the door, you go across, and there are these vegetable vendors that I've had a relationship with for like 2 years. And I was chatting with them. One of them got thrown in jail for 3 days for selling vegetables on the street because technically that was in violation of quarantine, and he had just gotten out. And So I mean, that's kind of like where their lives are at. But the other one, I'm talking to this lady, and in the middle of our conversation, she just goes like, yeah, things are falling apart, and I don't have anybody who's buying my vegetables. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she says, I think God is mad at us. I think God is mad at humans.
Huh. Interesting.
And I said, like, why? And she said, well, just, humans forget about God and they're wicked, and so he's mad at us. So anyway, then she went on talking about other things. I just kind of sat there and was thinking, like, how do I even build this conversation and stuff? The conversation went out in this direction, and I basically said, I agree with you. God's wrath, or God is angry at our sin, and we all deserve judgment. But I said, there is also hope, because he has mercy. And the only way that he both has wrath and mercy is the cross. And we went down that direction. Anyway, I mean, so that's a piece of it. These conversations are happening in ways that are kind of exciting. And I appreciate prayer for this. I want to have wisdom. I want to be in compliance with the government. Like there's a house across the street with 37 people in it. Because that's just, they're all there. And they're nervous, they're scared. And they started asking me about church, and they wanted to know, they were asking me questions. I want to go over there and have a Bible study with them. But if I do that, I will be technically violating so I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way to be in compliance, not break the law, and still reach out to these people that are asking questions, because they are asking questions. Something I just finished today, if I can find it here, I'll put a picture up of it. But it's something that I'm doing specifically for my community. So this is a project that a friend of mine at the church helped me on. I wrote this, and I have it. This is Tagalog. I also wrote it in English, and it's a tract. And the tract just says, are you scared? Well, there is something that is a more sure answer. Here's the English version of the same thing. So anyway, I'm going to post that or share that around, and if people want to use it here in the Philippines, or they want to use it in the U.S., that's something that, without violating the law about quarantine, I can freely hand that out. So at least that's something I can do. But
I was going to ask a question, but we'll cover that later, I'm sure. Just an idea. But there are people that are scared or curious, or maybe turning toward God in some way, or at least interested in turning toward God. And then there are people, I'm sure, in probably every church around the world, at least almost every church, who aren't going to bother coming back, right? This is definitely going to shake up the church, just like it's shaking up everything else on the planet. What are your thoughts, or what are you thinking about how the church will change, or should change, or I guess even should face the inevitable change going forward? So once the quarantine is done, in however many months, when this is all basically behind us, how should the church be responding, and what do you think we're going to be facing?
It's interesting. There's another thing I was kind of pondering here earlier today, because I was trying to write up some thoughts or think through it for myself. But I kind of want to argue that the shift or the changes are going to be less tectonic, less dramatic than we think they are. Because I really think human foibles and human character is it's a lot more deeply rooted than we give it credit. All I mean is just, so we're going to go through all of this, and we're going to say, wow, this changed everything, and then we're going to get done, and at some point the government's going to go, okay, you can go back to your jobs, you can go back to your churches. And my prediction will be, within weeks, or maybe not even plural of weeks, it'll just be we were right back where we were in our old routines. I think the fundamentals of human values and priorities and what we love we were making our choices before the quarantine based on those values, and we are currently making choices based on those values, and when the quarantine is over, we'll go right back to who we were. I don't think people will really change. So maybe a little cynical. On the other hand, I mean, this is something that's encouraging to me. I think then people that were really serious about Scripture and God and walking with Him, they're using their time during the quarantine to read their Bibles and to talk to their kids about the Lord and to pray. Mm-hmm. And the people that were kind of neutral, maybe they might give a couple of extra thoughts in a heavenward direction, but in general, they're going to just try to survive during this time. And when we get done, they're going to go right back to where they were. So that. What if there was a positive spin on it or a positive view on it, what I would hope churches could do, should do, if we were depending on a kind of an entertainment sort of, or program sort of, or, you know, I have this other exciting thing that's happening on this Sunday, it's going to be new, and the next Sunday I come out with something else new, or we were depending on all the music or the lights or the smoke and the action and all that. If we had to depend on all of that to keep them coming back, then we had all that stripped away from us. And it might be really good and it might be really healthy if the church has to come back to reality, which is the only thing I ever have on any Sunday that is worthy of people's time coming back again and again and again. The only thing I have that's really worthy of that is the Word of God and worshiping the true and living God. And a bunch of like entertaining smoke and mirrors and fancy stuff, lights, action, camera, and everything like that. It's just like spooning whipped cream on top. But like, how about we just cut that and let's just get the substance? I'm going to tell you truth from the living God. So if it drove us back to the fundamentals, that would be awesome.
Yeah. True. All right. Excellent. That's good. That's a good it's a good perspective. I think it's a really good point that people are still people. They'll still have similar motivations, or if not identical, and same problems. And that's what, you know, a huge part of what church is for, is to help each other help with our problems. Good, very good.
I mean, don't you think it really ought? To me, here's another like cynical way of saying it, but to actually people who actually change in their character, like people who will change at the core root level, not just like, okay, I did a little different behavior, I changed my habit or a little bit, but their character changes. That is incredibly rare. People can like go through a crisis, even of something far more dramatic than this, and when it's all done, they will like turn right back around and they'll go, it's extraordinary how just how deep the bent is in our hearts. But to me, I think this really highlights the richness of sanctification or the power of the gospel. It is possible for character to change. When it does, though, it's miraculous. Yeah. I mean, you can't bring about character change by manipulation. You can't like engineer this thing. You can't like manipulate them into doing it. It's going to have to be a miracle, and it's only the gospel that ever actually changes human hearts. So, anyway, whatever.
That's good. I really appreciate that. Let's kind of draw this to a close here with a little more personal question. In my life, in my family's life, when we had major events, God has burdened me with trying to help my kids learn major lessons from them. And I don't mean, just things that will stick with them. It could be a very fundamental, very simple thing, but things that will be foundational to their understanding of the world moving forward. Your kids are all really pretty young overall. What is your goal for them in this? What do you hope that they take away from this? And when they're grandparents, what do you want them telling their grandkids? I learned this in the COVID-19 quarantine.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely pondered that. Because, right, I mean, even if you talk to people that are 30 years older than us, people haven't experienced anything like this. I mean, the last time that there was something this much of a lockdown for planet Earth, as I understand it, we're literally going to go back to like 1940s, the last time things were this shut down. That's crazy. Anyway, so in my mind, it's like, this is hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, because I don't really want it to happen again. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me to demonstrate some things to my kids, I'm hoping. Specifically, what I really would like them to come away with seeing out of all of this, again, what I'm hoping, if they came out of this and it was like, even when everything external fell apart, mom and dad didn't change. Their commitments didn't change. They didn't freak out. Their commitment to the church, even when we couldn't go to church, their commitment to God's people, their absolute deep rooted foundation on the Word of God, all of that stayed the same. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think my kids are afraid of this. They definitely have heard of it. I mean, they've heard us talking, and so they know what the coronavirus is and stuff like that. They've heard all the talk. I don't want my kids to be afraid. I'm not really just trying to be like, well, it's just no big deal. I want them to understand that this is, if nothing else, the fact that the world has shut down is clearly a big deal. And then what I'm trying to convince them is, even when all of those systems fail us, then God has not. And our commitment to His Word, and then second to His people, has not. So like this is Friday, my Friday. 2 days from now, it'll be Easter Sunday. It'll be Sunday. We work really hard at doing the normal routine. We get them up. We actually have them dress up. And then we have them sit out here, and they're part of the service. Even other like little routines of things that we used to do before this happened every Sunday, we do those things. We want them to be convinced that like nothing has changed in terms of our commitment to the church and God's people, and we're completely plugged into anything that our church is going to do online, just because that's what we got. That's all we got right now. So.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's really good. That's effectively the same thing that I think God has burdened me with as well in my family and in our church. That the foundation has never changed. It doesn't matter how drastic the surface change is. The foundation will never ever change. It's always, how can I obey God? That's always good.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Right. It's good.
Good. Well, Joel, is there anything else from this whole big topic, or these topics we talked about, that you want to leave us with? Or we pretty well covered everything. Well, obviously we could never cover everything. This is worldwide, but any of the thoughts you want to share with us?
I'll toss one thing, something I was processing earlier. You know, this kind of this saying that gets tossed around, and it's gone around this time too. For governments, never waste a crisis. I think it was Henry Kissinger that originally was saying that. Anyway, never waste a crisis, because when there's a crisis, then this is kind of like the time to roll in whatever legislation they wanted to put in or something. All right, so I was kind of processing that for myself and going in dual directions at the same time. I believe deeply that if my foundation for faith and my worldview was founded upon the rock, Jesus Christ, then this crisis changed nothing about that. So in a way, like, my life doesn't shake. In another way, if I do what Ecclesiastes talks about, and it says, in the day of prosperity, then rejoice, but in the day of adversity, consider God has made both of them. Then there really is a sense, okay, I have more time on my hands, or a lot of other things have changed. How about stop, reevaluate my life? And where that leaves me is I have a very deep, passionate concern that I don't just want to survive for the next couple of weeks. I want to prosper. And by prosper, I want to spiritually prosper. So it's not really just get through this and then my life begins in 3 weeks from now, as though here's the clock of life and time, and it just froze. It didn't freeze. Right. My days are still clicking off. And this is part of the short time I have that is called life. So by God's grace, I'm desperate to live it well. And that includes quarantine time, to live every day well. And then I'm desperate to come out 10 years from now, look back, remember this, and not just be like, wow, wasn't that weird? But to look back at this and to recall, wasn't God good? And wasn't his word sweet? And didn't we as a family enjoy that time walking with him and growing in him? So I'm desperate to not just throw this time away or get through it, but to really prosper in it. So that's the main thing. Maybe I'll toss out there, leave us with.
That's perfect. We've been using the term thrive for the exact same thing. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to grow. I think God has fast forwarded a lot of things in the world, and I think that He wants to fast forward our personal growth too. So that's wonderful. That's a huge encouragement to hear that from other parts of God's family. He's leading us all in the same way. So I appreciate that quite a bit. Yeah, very good. All right. Well, thank you, Joel, very much. I appreciate your time and your input and your wisdom and your love for God and for all of us. And we're privileged to be connected with you in the ways that we are.
Thank you. This is fun. This is encouraging.